The fleet of Russian flag carrier Aeroflot has changed over the past year. While the overall quantity of aircraft is only slightly smaller, just over 1/5 of these jets are listed as parked. Sanctions from mainly Western countries have had a significant impact on aircraft maintenance and serviceability and wiped out any and all future deliveries of Western-built aircraft. Indeed, as we move towards the possibility of a new Cold War, the fleet of Aeroflot will likely become increasingly comprised of Russian-built aircraft. Today, let's look at the current state of the Aeroflot fleet, 1 year after Russia launched its invasion of Ukraine. We begin our examination of Aeroflot's current fleet by looking at figures compiled by planespotters.net. With 173 aircraft under the care of the airline, these are the types and quantities of planes listed: 52 A320-200s, 6 A320neos, 32 A321-200s, 3 A321neos, 12 A330-300s, 7 A350-900s, 37 737-800s, 22 777-300ERs, and 2 Superjet 100s. So, how have numbers changed since we last examined the fleet at the end of March 2022? Well, for starters, the airline is now down by 7 aircraft. At the aircraft type level, all quantities of Airbus and Boeing aircraft have remained exactly the same as last year, with lease seizures and repossessions taking place before our March 30th, 2022 fleet examination. Indeed, the main change comes from the airline having 7 fewer Sukhoi Superjet 100s. Where there were once 9 of these small regional jets, the carrier now has 2 under its name. The loss was the result of the jets being transferred from Aeroflot to fellow Aeroflot group airline Rossiya. While repossessions of leased aircraft operated by Russian airlines took place swiftly in the weeks after the invasion, one Airbus A330 operated by Aeroflot was caught up in a tense seizure incident last June. It was on June 2nd that the A330-300 once registered Victor Quebec Bravo Mike Yankee, but re-registered Romeo Alpha 73702, was seized at Colombo in Sri Lanka. The plane, filled with passengers, was about to leave Colombo's Bandaranaike International Airport when air traffic control reportedly received orders to stop it from taking off. All passengers and crew from the aircraft disembarked and were accommodated in hotels. In the days following, Sri Lankan court suspended the order and the aircraft was once again allowed to take off. The rightful owner of the now 11-year-old jet, Irish lessor Celestial Aviation Trading, has been left 1 aircraft short due to its inability to repossess the A330. At the start of this year, Aeroflot announced it had purchased 10 Boeing 777-300ER aircraft that had been on long-term leases with the airline since 2013 and 2014. The buyout was conducted through an Irish lessor. At the time of the news, Aeroflot said in a statement shared with Russian media that it intended to keep looking to buy more foreign-leased planes in an effort to maintain its fleet. The statement read, Aeroflot will continue to work on further implementation of transactions for the purchase of aircraft in order to maintain the current fleet of foreign-made aircraft in operation and expand the possibility of their operation. This approach also confirms the reliability of Aeroflot as a counterparty that responsibly fulfills its contractual obligations. The airline's actions were a repeat of July 2022 when it purchased 8 Airbus A330 aircraft from foreign leasing companies. While a slightly smaller fleet might not be too noteworthy, the interesting thing to focus on is the fact that Aeroflot's fleet would have grown had it not been for sanctions prompted by the invasion of Ukraine. The most notable delivery halt and redistribution is the airline's order of 22 Airbus A350-900s. We noted last year that while a single A350 was delivered the same day as the invasion start, several A350s that were ready or near ready were sitting in storage at Châteauroux Centre Airport. The manufacturer's serial numbers or MSNs of those jets are 471, 457 and 463. So where did these A350s meant for Aeroflot end up? We know that MSNs 471, 457, 463 and 493 now fly for Turkish Airlines. In fact, of the 6 A350-900s delivered to Turkish Airlines in 2022, 4 of these were meant to go to Aeroflot. And it's not just Turkish Airlines picking up Aeroflot's A350 orders. Indian flag carrier Air India has benefited as well. After nearly a year of speculation, Air India announced in February 2023 plans for a major fleet expansion and modernization. Orders which will see the addition of new Boeing and Airbus narrow-bodies and wide-bodies include Airbus A350-900s, more specifically jets that were meant to go to Aeroflot. According to Aviation Source News, the specific MSNs for these reallocated A350s are as follows: 589, 592, 594, 558, 554, 555. Extensive sanctions also forbid any export of spare parts from the EU or the US to Russia. In addition to fewer international destinations for Aeroflot jets to serve due to airspace bans, sanctions on spare parts are also a big explanation for the large number of aircraft listed as parked by planespotters.net. At the moment, 37 of the airline's 173 aircraft are listed as parked, a little over 20%. Many have suspected or predicted that cannibalisation of aircraft will take place in order to ensure a partially active fleet. In August 2022, we reported that Aeroflot had begun stripping one of its brand new Airbus A350s for parts. As many as 4 industry sources told Reuters that Russian carriers had grounded and begun dismantling some aircraft to service others in order to keep the rest of their fleet airworthy. One source said at the time that at least one Sukhoi Superjet SSJ-100, Russian-built but comprised of foreign-produced parts, and one Airbus A350 had been harvested. While we won't list all the aircraft currently listed as parked, it's worth noting that 4 of 12 A330-300s and 4 of 7 A350-900s are on the ground. On the Boeing side, just 3 of 22 777-300ERs are parked. With spare parts being used up over time, the expectation would be to see fewer and fewer Airbus and Boeing aircraft flying around with Aeroflot as time goes by. However, this is far from guaranteed, as reports from summer 2022 indicated that Russia has plans to manufacture unauthorized and unapproved spare parts for these Western-built aircraft. According to Air Insight Group, Russian aviation authority Rosaviatsia issued developer certificates to 5 companies authorizing them to perform modification, certification of minor changes, and issuance of technical documentation, including approval of repair documentation and changes. The media outlet notes that certification of these Russian companies enables them to manufacture spare parts. While these could keep Western jets flying, these components and their presence within Airbus and Boeing jets would not be recognized as airworthy outside of Russia. It's also worth noting that China's ambassador to Russia, Zhang Hanui, declared in June that China was ready to supply spare parts to the Russian Federation, assuring that there would be no restrictions from the Chinese side. Recently, Airbus Chief Executive Officer Guillaume Faury commented on the current situation in Russia as it relates to his company and the planes that bear its stamp, saying, "We have some visibility, but obviously less than we had before the 24th of February last year. What we observe is that the Russian airlines have been able to continue to fly despite the sanctions. In fact, they were flying more in the second half of 2022 than what they were before COVID." Faury continued, "But we start to hear about situations where they are missing parts or components or an inability to keep some of the planes in flight. But we're not speaking with the Russian airlines. We miss visibility, and yes, we are slightly concerned about the way the planes are operated, but we have no real means to act. With an inability to take new Airbus or Boeing aircraft and challenges in servicing its existing Western-built jet, it's no surprise that the airline is looking to decrease its dependence on foreign-built aircraft. In fact, Aeroflot has plans to have Russian-built aircraft make up 70% of its fleet by 2030. Commenting on the airline's growth plans, Aeroflot's chief executive officer Sergei Alexandrovsk was reported as saying, "By 2030, we plan to put into operation 339 domestic aircraft and develop competencies to maintain airworthiness. The ratio of foreign and domestic aircraft in the fleet will be 30 to 70% respectively." Plans have been moving along as Russian news agency TASS confirmed in February 2023 a deal to deliver 63 civil aircraft, with deliveries scheduled for 2025. The Russian Industry and Trade Ministry said the first delivery of 2 SSJ new planes would begin in 2023, with 6 MC-21 and 7 Tu-214s to be delivered in 2024. The specific breakdown of the 63 aircraft deal is for 18 Irkut MC-21s, 34 SSJ News, and 11 Tupolev Tu-214s. From the events of 2022, it's clear that Aeroflot is an airline in transition. With growing tensions between the East and West, a return to a pre-invasion state will not take place easily or at any time in the near future. We might expect to see Aeroflot slowly reduce its number of Airbus and Boeing aircraft as the availability of spare parts continues to decline. However, as we noted, spare parts produced by Russian and Chinese industries could keep these aircraft flying. Ultimately, new airframes joining Aeroflot for the foreseeable future will be those produced in Russia from names such as Irkut, Tupolev, and more. So what do you think of Aeroflot's current fleet composition? How long do you think it'll be able to keep its Airbus and Boeing aircraft flying? Share your opinions by leaving a comment. Simple Flying publishes over 150 articles every week. If you're looking for the latest aviation news and insights, visit simpleflying.com.